the secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control.
Yes.
Control is, the drill sergeant that orders you around where to go. Now, there's a tiny tweak between guiding someone, that guides you through the mountains. Like, you don't resent that person because they're guiding you. They're not controlling your every step.
Yeah.
There's an innate, deep-seated need in human beings to maintain their autonomy. I heard on another podcast recently referred to as agency. But you will do things that are against your interests to maintain your autonomy. You kill a deal that you should make. You'll stop talking to somebody that you should talk to just to maintain your autonomy. We learned this the hard way in negotiations, hostage negotiations. People were getting killed on a regular basis because we were too coercive, too forceful. And then in 2002, I stumbled over Jim Camp's book, Start With No. And in it, he writes, in terms of business, people will die to preserve their autonomy. Yeah. And this is a business context, which means, you hear business people all the time, I'm going to blow this deal up. I'm going to string these people along. Like, dude, you're hurting yourself. But it's about autonomy. And that's what getting people to say no, it makes them feel safe. It makes them feel like they protected their autonomy, which consequently makes them much more open to being guided to where you want them to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you call that, I forgot what you called it. It's something guided decisions or guided decision making or guided discovery. Sorry. That's what you called it. How does someone go from, because you go for a no, you get the false sense of control or the illusion of control, and then now they're opening up to you and you're asking calibrated questions to get them to open up more and more. Can you give an example of the importance of calibrated questions to discover more?
Well, there's two issues there. There's when you get really good at this, there's what's the calibrated question driving at? And it's usually going to be a what or a how question. And it lands well with the other side. It feels very deferential. And there's great power in deference. I love the power that deference gives you, the ability to influence a negotiation to guide it. Like, deference is ridiculous. When you get really good at it, it's shocking what you can get away with if your approach is deferential. Yeah. So those are two deferential questions. People love to be asked what to do and how to do it. People are just drawn to that. It makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Now, the downside is those are also exhausting questions. And it's not necessarily a downside, but you got to be aware that it takes a lot of mental energy to answer those questions. So what's the toggle? The toggle is the label. You could say, what do you hope to accomplish by selling the house? That's a great what question. If they're really tired, you just do the same thing with labels. Seems like you got some things you want to accomplish by selling a house. One of those two is going to land just right. And if you're good at both of them, then you smell, your instinct in the moment helps you understand exactly which one to interact with.
Yeah. Yeah. The power of labeling is insane because can you share what that is in your own words?
Well, a label in its simplest forms is just a verbal observation of an emotion or a dynamic. Seems like you've got a reason for selling your house. That's just a verbal observation of a dynamic. They're selling a house. You're drawing a distinction between labeling what they've said and labeling them as people, and you're labeling the emotion or the dynamic. Yeah. Now, the flexibility of labels, especially when you get really good at them, you can really dig in. It seems like you got some long-term goals here. Seems like you're frustrated with the current market. Seems like you've been frustrated with agents. You start throwing labels on and get really good at them, like people on my team who are really good at this stuff, better than I am, they'll go through an entire interaction and only label.
Interesting.
And that's any one of the skills that you're most likely to become addicted to when you get really good at it. Labeling is the most flexible overall on what you could do. But it just starts out in its simplest form, making a verbal observation. It seems, it sounds, it looks, it feels, and not being afraid of what that observation is. Like if you're sensing, your gut instinct is very, very good, very accurate. If you're sensing they're uncomfortable with the conversation, then the correct label would be, feels like you're uncomfortable with this conversation. Like, that's the most disarming thing And people are so at saying that. There's a gentleman named Eric, was studying Jim Camp extensively and then started studying me as soon as he found out I was out there. He's got an interaction where the point person for the decision maker is blowing him off. And he literally says, it feels like I'm getting blown off here. And this person was the gatekeeper. And she goes, no. He goes, and I'm really surprised by that because it felt like, we had a great conversation going. He ends up getting a meeting because his gut instinct picked up that he was getting blown off for whatever reason. This whole control thing, she probably felt a little out of control.
Yeah.
And as soon as he just threw a label on a dynamic he sensed in a moment, it cleared it up. And most people would want to deny that dynamic if address it at all. And the big shift is going from the denial to the simple observation.